Hello and welcome back to my adventures in Reforj. Today we are starting a brand new survival world called Woodlands Wonder, so I hope you can join me for my adventures. I have loaded up a brand new procedurally generated world, which is a voxel-based sandbox. And the first thing I'm going to do here is gather some iridium, as iridium contains a large source of aura, and aura basically powers everything you're going to make in the world eventually. Now, aura in itself, however, is quite volatile, so it needs something to contain it. This is in the form of noble glass. So anything you construct with aura will also need an element of noble glass implemented within it. So I'm just going to mine this tree now, and make sure I get all the wood, because wood will come useful later when we start to build our first home. As for the worlds themselves, they loop. So if you walk far enough in one direction, you'll come back from the other to the same point. They are made up of 600 sculpted shapes. They're 4 kilometers squared and 256 elements tall. Now this might not sound very big, but when you consider the gateways, the game becomes a lot more interesting, as these gateways allow you to travel to dimensions. It's not sure what these dimensions are going to be so far, but it'd be pretty cool if you could end up going to space, or maybe even end up in a Candy Floss dreamland. These gateways will also have other functions, as they'll allow you to gather resources which you didn't originally start with without having to destroy your world and begin again. They maybe even become a teleport system as the game progresses. I'm unsure how these teleporters are going to make sure you go to certain worlds, but it'd be quite cool if you could add some kind of scripture into these portals before you go through them, which dictate where you're going to end up. Or maybe even build them out of a certain block to change your destination. Now, as you can see, I'm destroying these blocks with a device on my hand. This device is called Bracer, and this is going to be used for tools in combat throughout the game. For now, it's quite a slow kind of scanning process you do, but I'm sure that will develop in the future with new tools and advancement. 1 minute in real life is 1 hour in the game at the moment, which means a full in-game day will last around 24 minutes. 3 mobs at the moment, which you can encounter in the world, one of these being a kiwi, which is basically used as food at the moment, and they get destroyed when they touch water. There's also a regal, which is a bird you see flying in the sky, and they don't really like to get close to you, so you can't really see them very well at the moment. And then the one thing that attacks you in the world so far is called Tunnel Scout. This is basically a rolling spider thing, which loves aura. So they're not really fussed about you to begin with before you collect aura, but the more aura you have, the more of a threat they become. They're not too much of a threat at the moment, as they only come out in the night time and they don't spawn in caves yet. I'm assuming that will develop later. The other thing I know about the game is that there's already colour of light implemented within the mechanic, so certain blocks will give off certain light. We see this at the moment in the form of mushrooms, but I'm sure this will become a greater mechanic later on, including things like animated light would also be a great thing. Right now I'm going to skip ahead while I gather some resources and travel to find a perfect place for our first home. So I will see you on the other side of the time lapse. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the music. You joined me back building my first house in this survival world. I'd like to use this time while I'm building to discuss some of the features and mechanics I'd like to see in the game as it progresses through its development. So I'll begin by discussing traversal systems. This is some suggestions on ways in which you could make it quicker to travel through the world. So I've already discussed maybe having a teleport system implemented within the gateways. So if you had one near your house, had one across the world, you could pick which gate you came out of when you went through it again on the other side. I would also like to see things like crouching and sliding to make it easier to travel down some of the mountainous areas in the game, as a lot of them are slopes. Now this could be done maybe with some kind of hoverboard or something that would suit the game style at the moment. If not for sliding, then maybe animal mounts to help you across mountains and long fields and plains of land and snow. These animals could be anything from your traditional horse to maybe even a hippogriffin that flies, or even dragons that you could use to fight, which would be quite cool to see. Furthermore, transforming vehicles might be good to see, but this would require a physics system within the game to run properly. So you could have a boat that when it touches land it spouts wheels, or have a car that when you press a certain button on the controller it spouts wings and you glide like with the wingsuit on your back. I'm assuming for sleeping you're probably going to be in some kind of pod mechanic. In crafting you might have different machines to craft different items. So like the difference between a brewing stand and a crafting table in Minecraft. That's something similar that suits more this game's sci-fi element. As for chests, it'd be quite cool to see chests that are specific to the job. So maybe having a noble glass container for aura, or having some kind of cooling system for any food in the game. Multiplayer has already been discussed as a big priority for the game in the future. I'd like to discuss some of the things I'd like to see within the world. This includes structures, maybe like some kind of advanced civilizational village, or it could even be some kind of ancient temple type Mayan ruin. This also leads into the fact that I'd like to see underwater exploitation, whether this be its own underwater structures, okay, shipwreck, or whether this just be deeper caves you can go see under the water. Within the world generation, I'd like to have super flat worlds, so you could build stuff in creative without having to worry about flattening the terrain, or maybe having an easier, quicker way of doing that, if not a world dedicated to it. Still keeping on the topic of what I'd like to see for the world in general, a weather system would be brilliant. I know that Forge are already experimenting with things like fog, but natural disasters and general rainstorms would be quite cool to see, as this would give you a new element for survival if you might worry about a volcano erupting or a tidal wave on the shorelines of islands. Moving on from the world now, I'm going to talk about mobs. Now, as you already know, there's 3 mobs in the game. Kiwi for food, a regal as your sky mob, and a tunnel scout, which is your only hostile mob in the game so far, and only spawn at night on the land and not in caves. Now, I don't know how much you already know about tunnel scouts and the way the combat system is for them, but basically you need to start building blocks in front of them as they roll to knock them onto the back and make them vulnerable, in which case you can then attack their stomach and kill them for a lot of aura to drop. Now this is quite a unique mechanic for killing enemies, and it would be wonderful to see other enemies that follow this kind of pattern. So maybe having an enemy that shoots you at range with some kind of light beam, or having other enemies with other combat styles rather than your general "I'm running at you, kill you" style we generally see within games. Other than hostile enemies, it'd been quite nice to see other passive enemies that you might be able to tame in the future, like maybe some kind of bionic dog or some kind of dragon pet. This would also lead on to things like farming, as you'd have to have other animals as sources for food and other materials in the game. Whether this be your traditional sheep, cow, pig arrangement, or whether this be some kind of unique animal that gives you the same or similar items. Along with farming, it'd be quite cool to be able to build a quarry as one of your upgradable items, as this would allow mining to become a lot more efficient as you advance in the game. A temperature gauge would be brilliant to see also, as this would add another element of survival to your character. Whether this be that you have to wear a certain item when you're in a desert compared to a cold biome, or whether this be you could eat a certain item to give you resistance to the cold, or the water you couldn't swim in, you had to use boats if it was cold. This leads nicely onto the food mechanics I'd like to see in this game. This includes things like spices and drinks, which give you abilities that your character might not already possess. So maybe having some kind of jumping potion or something that allows you to breathe underwater. Having spices to control your temperature. Adding ice, chilies to a meal would change the effects it would have in colder and warmer environments. This also encompasses cooking methods. It'd be quite nice to see different cooking methods and utensils in the game. Maybe having your first cooking device be quite simple, like a campfire, which cooks things really slow and doesn't give you a lot of benefits. But then progressing further on to things like microwaves, which cook things faster but don't give you as many hearts, or having a proper oven, which takes longer to cook but provides you with more hearts and benefit doing so. Back with the half-star mob discussion, I would love to see some kind of end boss in the game, as I know there's not really any plans for a traditional storyline quest hunting game at the moment, but it would be nice to have a goal like the Ender Dragon or the Wither for people who enjoy that type of achievement hunting. It's unsure what the final boss might be in a game like this, but I'm sure with the creative talents at Reforj, they come up with something pretty cool. Doing a full 360, I'm now going to talk about the building mechanics in the game, as that's more suited to what I'm doing at the moment. So as you can see, while I've been building, I've been bringing up this radial wheel. Now the radial wheel helps you sculpt the items into different shapes. And it's evident at the moment that this wheel has already got space to expand, because I already know that they're already planning corner sculpt, which has opened up a lot in the game already. But I would also like to see things like half slab sculpting. So your block could be half the height but still the same shape, as it would allow designs to be more intricate. Within this, I'd like to see different furniture you could maybe add to your house to make it look more modern. Whether this furniture has a function or whether it's just for aesthetic purposes, I'm not sure yet, but both would be pretty cool. Another tool I would love to see within the building mechanics is a painting tool, which allows you to paint either side of a block for a different colour or pattern, like you've got wallpaper on the inside and then outside you've got brick. This could also be done maybe with being able to put two elements within one block in the world, but this would be good for things like flowers, which might not take up a full block in themselves. But anyways, I've spent a long time discussing what I would like in the game, and I'd love to hear your comments below on what you would like as future additions, as what I've seen so far is brilliant, especially with what the community might add to it in the future. Just adding the final finishing touches to our house for now, in this survival world that we're going to carry on exploring to see how the game develops in the future. But thanks for joining me on my adventures in Reforj, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!